This is Mr. Eugene, and today we're examining something that sounds controversial but explains more relationship dysfunction than any other single factor. Women systematically undervalue men, not because they're malicious, not because they're consciously trying to be unfair, but because nature played a cruel trick on them by giving them enormous sexual power at the exact age when they have zero wisdom to manage it responsibly. Picture this. A regular person living a regular life suddenly becomes internet famous. A video goes viral. Overnight, they have millions of followers. Everyone wants their attention. Brands are offering sponsorships. Strangers treat them like celebrities. Their inbox is flooded with opportunities, invitations, people wanting to be close to them. Their perceived value goes from invisible to important instantly. They have newfound influence. And it's intoxicating. But here's the problem. They have absolutely no training for managing this attention, this sudden shift in how the world treats them. So how do they manage it? Usually very poorly. We've all seen the influencer meltdown stories, destroyed relationships, bad decisions, life worse than before they went viral. Now picture a 14 or 15-year-old girl. Almost overnight, she goes from invisible kid to male attention magnet. Men stare at her. Older men, successful men, men who seem more impressive than her own father. She's suddenly living in the same arena as adult women, sometimes getting more attention than her own mother. This is the female version of going viral, except she's even less equipped to handle it than the influencer, because she's not just untrained. She's a child. What percentage of 16-year-old girls are absolute pains to deal with? Everyone knows the answer. It's not just hormones, it's power. More power than she can imagine, much less manage responsibly. And here's where the damage begins. Because that power, that attention, that ability to attract male interest, it creates a fundamental miscalibration in how she values men. A miscalibration that most women carry into adulthood, into marriage, and it destroys everything. Stay with me. This pattern explains why peaceful relationships with women feel impossible. The power she doesn't know how to manage. Let me walk through what actually happens to young women as they develop. The sudden shift. At 13, she's a kid, invisible to the adult world. No power, no attention from men, just a child. By 15, everything has changed. Men look at her, not boys her age, men, adult men, successful men, men with resources and status and experience. She goes to the mall and grown men turn their heads. She posts a photo online and gets hundreds of likes. She walks through school and older guys who ignored her a year ago, suddenly want to talk to her. This is intoxicating, confusing, and it fundamentally warps her perception of her own value and men's value. What she learns. The first lesson she learns, consciously or unconsciously, male attention is abundant. It's everywhere. It's constant. Men are easy to get. She doesn't understand yet that the attention isn't about her as a person. It's about her youth and her appearance and male biology responding to fertility signals. She thinks it's about her, that she's special, that she has inherent value that makes men pursue her. The second lesson, men are interchangeable. If one guy disappoints her, there are 10 more waiting. If things get uncomfortable with this one, she can just move to the next. Men are like socks, easy to change, always available. The third lesson, she doesn't need to invest much to keep male attention. She just needs to exist. Being young and reasonably attractive is enough. Men will compete for her without her doing much of anything. These lessons create a fundamental problem. She learns that men are low value because they're abundant and easily replaced. That her value is high because men pursue her constantly without her effort. This isn't conscious thought, it's absorbed through experience, and it creates a calibration error that she'll carry for decades, the comparison that destroys perspective. At 16, she's getting attention from 30-year-old men, successful men, men with careers and money and confidence, men who seem infinitely more impressive than the boys her age. She starts comparing. Her father, who might be a good man doing his best, suddenly seems less impressive than these successful men paying attention to her. The boys her age seem like children compared to the adult men interested in her. She doesn't understand that those 30-year-old men aren't pursuing her for relationships. They're pursuing her for the obvious reasons. She thinks she has access to that tier of man, that these successful, accomplished men are her realistic options. This creates a permanent inflation of her standards and a permanent deflation of how she values ordinary good men. How this transfers to adult relationships. Most women never correct this miscalibration. They carry it into their 20s, their 32nds, into marriage. The attitude that persists. Even when she's married to a good man, somewhere in her psychology she still believes men are abundant and easily replaced. that if this relationship becomes uncomfortable, she has options. This doesn't mean she's actively looking to leave. It means her tolerance for discomfort in the relationship is extremely low because she's never had to develop tolerance. She's always been able to just move on when things got difficult. So when conflict arises, when he does something that bothers her, when the relationship requires actual work, her instinct isn't to work through it. Her instinct is avoidance, withdrawal, the silent treatment, creating distance. Because in her experience, men are replaceable. Why work through difficulty when you can just find someone new? The undervaluation. She undervalues what he provides, the stability, the consistency, the quiet dedication, the sacrifices he makes, the stress he absorbs to protect her and the family. She sees these things as baseline, as the minimum, as what any man should do, because in her formative years, men competed to give her things just for existing, so his effort doesn't register as valuable. His provision doesn't generate gratitude. His consistency doesn't create appreciation. It's all just expected. And when something is expected rather than appreciated, it's undervalued, the constant testing. Because she undervalues him, she tests constantly, pushing boundaries to see if he'll enforce them, creating conflict to see if he'll stand firm, withdrawing to see if he'll chase, not because she wants the relationship to fail, because she needs to know he's actually valuable, that he's not like the abundant, easily accessible men she's been surrounded by since puberty. But the testing itself creates the dynamic she claims to hate. She pushes him away, then resents him for being distant. She creates conflict, then complains he's difficult. She undervalues him, then wonders why he's not the strong leader she wants. Real examples. What this looks like. Example 1. The argument over nothing. He forgot to pick up milk on the way home. Minor mistake. Easily fixed. He'll get it tomorrow. Her response. Cold silence for 2 days, barely speaking to him, acting wounded and hurt. He's confused. It's milk. What's actually happening? What's actually happening is she's demonstrating her power. She has the power to withdraw and make him uncomfortable. She has the power to punish him for minor infractions. And she uses it because she can. If she valued him appropriately, this would be a non-issue. Oh, you forgot the milk. No problem. I'll grab it tomorrow. Done. But because she undervalues him, his minor mistake becomes an opportunity to remind him that her approval matters and can be withdrawn at will. Example 2, the unrealistic comparison. They're discussing finances. He's working hard, providing well. They're stable, comfortable, building for the future. Not rich, but doing fine. She brings up her friend's husband. Did you see they're going to Hawaii for 2 weeks? Must be nice. The implication, you're not providing enough. You should be doing more. Other men do more. He's being compared to a highlight reel. She doesn't know that friend's full financial situation, doesn't know if they're going into debt for that trip, doesn't know what sacrifices that husband made or what stress he's under, but she's comparing, because in her mind, men are interchangeable, and she should have access to whatever the best ones are providing. This comparison is direct result of the calibration error from her youth. She got attention from successful men at 16, so she still believes that level of man should be accessible to her at 35. Example 3, the lack of appreciation. He's been working 60-hour weeks, building his career, providing for the family, coming home exhausted, doing it because it's what the family needs right now. She's frustrated that he's not more present, that he's tired in the evenings, that he's not planning date nights, that he's not engaging more with the kids. She sees his sacrifice as neglect, his hard work as him choosing work over family, his exhaustion as him not caring enough to push through it. If she valued appropriately what he's doing, the framework would be completely different. I know you're working incredibly hard for us. I appreciate that. How can I make your time at home more restful so you can keep doing this? But because she undervalues the provision, she sees only what she's not getting, not what he's giving. The married woman version. When a woman carries this undervaluation into marriage, it manifests in specific patterns. Conflict avoidance through withdrawal. Instead of leaving for a new man when things get uncomfortable, she withdraws emotionally. The silent treatment, cold distance, refusal to engage. She's learned she doesn't have to work through difficulty. She can just remove her presence, her warmth, her approval until he caves to whatever she wants. This is the married version of, I'll just find someone new. She can't actually leave easily, so she creates emotional leaving, makes him feel the loss of her even while she's physically present. Darvo in action. When he addresses her behavior, when he points out something she's doing that's destructive, she immediately flips it. Deny, I didn't do that. You're imagining things. Attack. You're always criticizing me. You're the one with the problem. Reverse victim and offender, I can't believe you're attacking me when I'm just trying to survive your constant demands. She's learned she doesn't have to be accountable, she just has to make him the problem. And because she undervalues him, making him the problem feels justified. The leverage game. She knows she has power, the power to withdraw intimacy, the power to create drama, the power to make his life difficult, and she uses that power because she can. Because in her psychology, she's the valuable one. He's lucky to have her. So maintaining power balance by reminding him she could make his life harder is just keeping him in check. This is what happens when someone has power they never learn to manage responsibly. They use it, not wisely, not carefully, just reflexively. Why this is so hard to fix? Most women will never recognize this pattern in themselves, because recognizing it requires admitting some uncomfortable truths, the ego protection. Admitting she's been undervaluing her husband means admitting she's been wrong, that her treatment of him hasn't been justified, that the power she's been wielding maybe shouldn't have been wielded that way. That's a direct hit to ego. Most people will defend against that rather than accept it. The comparison to other women, every woman she knows operates the same way. Her friends withdraw when upset, her mother gives the silent treatment. The women she sees in media use their power the same way. So this pattern is normalized. It's just how women operate in relationships. It's just how you handle men. Why would she question it when everyone else does it too? The loss of power. If she recalibrates her valuation, if she starts seeing her husband as genuinely valuable rather than easily replaceable, she loses leverage. She can't use withdrawal as effectively if she values what he provides. She can't make unrealistic comparisons if she appreciates what she has. She can't avoid accountability if she respects him as an equal. Most people don't voluntarily give up power, even when using that power is destroying what they claim to want. What needs to change for women reading this, here's what growing up actually requires. Get real about your actual value. You're not a famous supermodel. You're not a celebrity. You're a normal woman with a normal husband who loves you and provides for you and stays committed to you despite the difficulty. The attention you got at 16 was about youth and biology. It wasn't about your inherent superiority. And you're not 16 anymore. The abundant male attention is gone. The easy replaceability is gone. You have one man who chose to commit to you, who works for you, who stays despite the challenges. That's valuable. Treat it as valuable. Accept that you traded access for security. When you were single, maybe you could cycle through men easily. Maybe you could avoid discomfort by just moving on. You traded that for marriage, for security, for stability, for a high-quality man willing to commit long-term. That trade means you don't get to operate like you're still single. You don't get to withdraw and expect him to chase. You don't get to avoid accountability. You chose partnership. Act like a partner. Be thankful. Appreciate that you have a man willing to work through conflict with you, willing to point out when you're operating from dysfunction, willing to stay even when you're difficult. He's not doing it to control you. He's not doing it to be a know-it-all. He's doing it because he's invested in this working, because he sees the potential you're not seeing, because he values the family enough to risk your displeasure. That's not something to resent. That's something to appreciate. For men, what you're actually dealing with, if you're a man experiencing this pattern, understand what you're up against. She's operating from a calibration error that formed in her teenage years, an error that told her men are abundant and low value while she's scarce and high value. That error is reinforced by every woman around her, by culture, by her entire support system. You changing how you behave won't fix this. You being a better husband won't fix this. This is her internal miscalibration, and only she can correct it. What you can do is refuse to operate from her false framework. Don't chase when she withdraws. Don't accept being undervalued. Don't tolerate being treated as replaceable. Require her to treat you as valuable or accept that she won't, and make your decisions accordingly. Final thoughts. Nature played a cruel joke on women by giving them enormous power at the exact age when they're least equipped to manage it. That power taught them men are abundant and low value, that they themselves are scarce and high value, that discomfort can be avoided by just moving on. Most women never correct this calibration. They carry it into adulthood, into marriage, and it destroys their relationships from the inside. Not because they're malicious, but because they're operating from a fundamental miscalculation about value that they formed when they were children. The women who recognize this and correct it build amazing marriages. The women who don't spend their lives confused about why relationships are so difficult, drop a comment. Do you recognize this pattern? Women, were you taught the true value of a quality man, or did you have to learn it the hard way? Subscribe for the uncomfortable truths about relationship dynamics that explain what's actually happening.